Have you ever stopped to reflect on why certain people seem to attract misfortune, while others live in a constant flow of success and abundance? It may seem like a mystery, but the truth is that the secret may lie in the things we accept from other people, often without realizing the profound impact this can have on our lives. Padre Pio, one of the most revered and spiritually gifted saints in history, was very clear in his teachings. There are 5 things you should never accept from anyone. Not only do they bring bad luck, but they also have the power to plunge us into a cycle of poverty and hardship. Now, imagine for a moment, what if the prosperity or misery in your life was directly linked to these seemingly small but extremely significant choices? In this video, we'll reveal these 5 spiritual traps that Padre Pio warned us to avoid at all costs. More than simple advice, these are guidelines that can literally transform your life, driving away negative energies and paving the way for true prosperity. At this point, type the following in the comments: Padre Pio, I receive prosperity. As we explore each of these hidden dangers, you'll realize that these 5 things, which are often accepted without thinking, can be the root of many problems you face. Have you ever thought that a simple gift, ill-advised advice, or a favor with ulterior motives could be sabotaging your success? Padre Pio's wisdom teaches us that we must be extremely selective and careful with what we accept from others, because not everything that seems benign really is. The 5th thing will surprise you. This video will guide you along a path of discernment, where you will learn to identify and avoid these traps. With the knowledge you'll acquire, you'll be able to make more conscious decisions, protecting yourself from the negative influences that may be disrupting your life. The practical application of Padre Pio's advice could be just what you need to start experiencing a life of fullness and fulfillment. But here's the crucial point. These 5 things are so common that we often don't even realize the harm they can cause. By watching this video to the end, you will gain a deep understanding of how small gestures, words, or gifts can carry with them an energy capable of shaping your destiny in a negative way. Knowing what to avoid is just as important as knowing what to accept, and this wisdom could be the key you need to change the course of your life for the better. So don't go anywhere. Prepare yourself for a journey of self-knowledge and spiritual protection. This valuable information could be just what you need to free yourself from the chains that bind your prosperity. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to discover could change your life forever. Listen to this message that Padre Pio left before he died. Many people around you want to see you destroyed. You can't live for long without divine protection. You need to pray every day, otherwise your life will be at great risk. If you want protection for your life, you should download my ebook, The Power of Padre Pio. This ebook contains prayers for every moment. If you want to live a life of divine protection, click on the link in the first comment and download The Power of Padre Pio now. Now let's get started. Padre Pio was not just an ordinary priest. He was known for his extraordinary spiritual gifts, including bilocation, the ability to read souls, and his mystical visions. But more than that, he had a deep understanding of the spiritual traps that can lead people into suffering and misery. In this context, he offered a series of pieces of advice to protect the faithful from the negative influences that can affect their material and spiritual lives. These pieces of advice are not only lessons in faith, but also practical guidelines for everyday life. Imagine a man who had always lived modestly, but who, by following Padre Pio's advice, saw his life transformed. He began to realize the pitfalls that surrounded him, and by avoiding them, was able to achieve the financial stability he so desperately sought. This section will explore in depth how these guidelines can originate from both spiritual knowledge and the observation of human behavior. First thing, poisoned gifts. The importance of choosing carefully what we accept. How many times have you accepted a gift without considering the hidden intentions behind that seemingly generous gesture? At first glance, a gift may seem like a symbol of affection, gratitude, or friendship, but Padre Pio warns us to be careful. He believed that some gifts, even the most valuable or meaningful ones, can carry negative energies, envy, or malicious intentions, which can have a direct and profound impact on your life. These gifts, which at first glance seem harmless, can be vehicles for curses. Padre Pio teaches us that we must be extremely selective with what we accept, and above all, from whom we accept it. The energy that accompanies a gift, especially if given by someone with malicious intentions, can negatively influence our lives, attracting bad luck, illness, or even financial problems. Instead of being a symbol of good intentions, these poisoned gifts can serve as an anchor, trapping us in a spiral of misfortune. Let's reflect on the importance of discerning the intentions behind every gift we receive. It's not just about material objects, but the energy they carry and the impact this energy can have on our daily lives. Ignoring these signs can result in disastrous consequences, as the story of a woman who received a piece of jewelry from a distant relative shows us. At first, she valued the jewel for its family significance, without considering the negative emotions that could be imbued in that object. However, soon after accepting the gift, her life began to fall apart in inexplicable ways. Health problems, financial difficulties, and family tensions began to emerge, all in a disturbing sequence. What once seemed like a family heirloom became a symbol of misfortune. Was this a coincidence? Padre Pio would say no. He warned that gifts given with bad intentions can attract misfortune, even if the intention is not explicit or conscious. This is why we must practice spiritual discernment, assessing not only the material value of what we receive, but also the energy and intentions that accompany it. For example, think of the story of John, a successful businessman who, after accepting an expensive watch from a business partner with whom he had a competitive relationship, began to experience a series of financial setbacks. What he didn't know was that this partner envied him deeply, and the gift, instead of being a symbol of friendship, was intended to undermine his success. Before long, Joan lost clients, faced legal problems, and saw his fortune crumble. Only after getting rid of the watch and cutting ties with his partner did he begin to regain his stability. This story serves as a powerful reminder of Padre Pio's wisdom. It's not just about what is given, but the intentions behind the act of giving. Discernment is key to protecting our lives and well-being. Second thing, dirty money. The weight of consequences for accepting money of doubtful origin. Easy money may seem like the solution to many problems, but Padre Pio warns us of a hidden danger. Not all money brings prosperity and peace. In fact, when money is acquired from dubious sources, whether through betting, gambling, illicit activities, or any other morally questionable path, it can carry a kind of invisible curse. This curse not only corrupts the soul, but can also attract a series of misfortunes and difficulties into the life of the person who possesses it. What Padre Pio wanted to teach us is that money obtained by immoral means has a cost far greater than its nominal value. It may seem like a blessing at first, but over time, its negative consequences begin to manifest themselves, eating away at everything good that a person has, from their finances to their peace of mind. Dirty money has the power to bring a succession of misfortunes, ranging from unexpected financial losses to health problems, family breakdowns, and a constant sense of unease and fear. When faced with the temptation to accept easy money or money of dubious origin, it is crucial to remember that what looks like a quick windfall can actually be the start of a cycle of destruction. the prosperity we seek cannot be sustained by fragile and corrupt foundations. Padre Pio firmly believed that money must be earned through honest work and fair efforts, because only then will it bear true and lasting fruit. To illustrate this lesson, let's consider the story of Carlos, a businessman who, in a moment of financial desperation, accepted a large sum of money from an associate involved in illicit business. At first, the money solved his immediate problems, and his company began to prosper again. However, over time, Carlos began to notice that things were not improving as he had hoped. On the contrary, his life began to fall apart. First, he faced a legal investigation that almost bankrupted his company. Then his health began to deteriorate, with a series of illnesses that the doctors couldn't explain. Finally, his once solid marriage began to fall apart under the weight of distrust and external pressures. Carlos, once a man of success and integrity, found himself trapped in a cycle of misfortune that seemed impossible to escape. It was only when he decided to return the money and cut ties with the associate that things began to change. Even though he had to start again from scratch, he realized that the peace of mind and security he had lost were far more valuable than any amount of money. Carlos's story teaches us a powerful lesson. Money earned immorally brings with it more than just a curse. It has the power to destroy everything we build. Therefore, we must always question the origin of the resources we accept, remembering that true prosperity can only be achieved by fair and honest means. Padre Pio, in his wisdom, offers us a safe path. Resist the temptation of easy money and build our lives on a foundation of integrity and hard work. Fourth thing, interested favors. When the favor comes with a high hidden price, not every favor is a selfless gift. Sometimes what seems like a kind and altruistic gesture hides intentions that can trap us in commitments that are difficult to break. Padre Pio, with his spiritual wisdom, warned us about the dangers of accepting favors that come loaded with unspoken expectations. These favors, which at first seem harmless or even a blessing, often end up putting us in delicate situations where we feel morally or emotionally indebted. And more often than not, the cost of these favors turns out to be much higher than we could have imagined. Accepting favors can create a network of invisible obligations, where the person granting the favor expects something in return, even if this has never been discussed openly. This kind of situation can lead to a cycle of emotional blackmail, where the person being favored is constantly pressured to reciprocate, often against their will. This dynamic can erode self-esteem, generate constant stress, and eventually create an environment of fear and anxiety. What makes these favors even more dangerous is the subtlety with which expectations are imposed. Often, the person offering the favor does it so skillfully that the emotional debt seems like a legitimate burden, something that must be paid back at any cost. But Padre Pio teaches us to discern these traps and to avoid getting into this vicious cycle. He reminds us that true charity doesn't charge a fee and that favors done with ulterior motives are never really free. To better understand the risks involved, let's explore the story of Martha, a woman who lived alone and relied on the help of her neighbor Peter for small household tasks. At first, Peter just seemed like a good Samaritan, always willing to help. However, over time, Martha began to notice that Peter expected something in return for his kindness. He began to call in favors at inconvenient times, forcing Martha to do tasks she didn't want to do, such as looking after his house while he traveled, or even helping him financially in questionable situations. What began as a gesture of friendship turned into a web of emotional manipulation in which Martha felt trapped and had no way out. Martha, who initially thought she was accepting a simple favor, found herself in a position where her freedom and peace of mind were compromised. With each help offered, Pedro's expectations became heavier until Marta realized that she was involved in a cycle of emotional blackmail that she couldn't get out of. It was only after seeking spiritual guidance and deciding to cut these ties that Marta began to regain her autonomy and peace of mind. This story teaches us that interested favors are rarely free and that we must be attentive to the intentions behind every offer of help. Padre Pio's wisdom guides us so that we can discern true acts of kindness from those that conceal hidden interests and thus protect our lives and our inner peace. Thing 5. Toxic relationships, the subtle and powerful influence of those around us. Relationships play a crucial role in our lives, shaping not only our emotions, but also our destiny. Padre Pio, with his deep understanding of the human soul, warned us about the devastating impact that toxic relationships can have on our lives. Being surrounded by negative, envious, or malicious people can drain our vital energy, attract bad luck, and create barriers to our prosperity and personal growth. He emphasized that the people we associate with have the power to directly influence our trajectory, for better or worse. Proximity to toxic people can, without us realizing it, poison our spirit, undermine our self-confidence, and lead us down paths of suffering and failure. These people often carry with them a cloud of pessimism and resentment, which ends up contaminating everything around them. Padre Pio taught us the importance of choosing our companions carefully, avoiding those who carry a negative charge that can lead us away from our goals and dreams. It's essential to understand that it's not just about cutting physical ties, but also about recognizing the emotional and spiritual influences that these people have on us. Sometimes just being close to someone who constantly complains, criticizes, or belittles others can create a toxic environment that blocks our positive energies and prevents us from thriving. Padre Pio believed that in order to live a full and blessed life, it was necessary to surround yourself with people who share high values and encourage mutual growth, rather than destroying self-esteem and hope. To illustrate this wisdom, let's explore the story of Anna, a woman who lived surrounded by friends and family who always discouraged her and devalued her efforts. For a long time, Anna accepted this dynamic as normal, thinking that she had to put up with the negativity of those around her. However, she began to realize that the more time she spent with these people, the more her life seemed to stagnate. She felt constantly exhausted and unmotivated, and her personal and professional projects never progressed as she had hoped. It was only after hearing about Padre Pio's teachings that Anna decided to make a radical change. She began to distance herself from the people who sucked her dry emotionally, and instead sought to surround herself with individuals who inspired and supported her. This process wasn't easy, but as Anna eliminated the toxic influences from her life, she began to notice significant changes. Her energy returned, her projects began to bear fruit, and she finally felt that she was on the right path to achieving her dreams. Anna's story is a clear example of the impact our relational choices can have on our lives. Padre Pio's words remind us that by carefully caring for the people we allow into our inner circle, we can create an environment of growth, positivity, and true prosperity. By freeing ourselves from toxic relationships, we make room for blessings to flow into our lives, allowing us to flourish in all areas. Now that you know the 5 things that Padre Pio advised us never to accept, it's time to reflect deeply on the impact of these practices on your life. How many times along your journey have you accepted a gift without questioning the intentions behind it? Or perhaps you've accepted money from a dubious source, believing it would solve your problems, without realizing the hidden price that would come later. These are just a few examples of how what seems like a small decision can have far greater consequences than we realize. These 5 warnings from Padre Pio are not mere suggestions. They are guides to living a life of integrity, peace, and prosperity. When we accept gifts, money, or favors without discerning the intentions behind them, or when we surround ourselves with toxic people, we are opening the door to influences that can lead us away from our values and goals. These choices, however small they may seem, have the power to shape our reality in ways we often can't foresee. Padre Pio, with his spiritual wisdom and deep understanding of human nature, left us this advice so that we can protect our lives and our souls. He knew that in order to live in peace and prosperity, it is essential to be aware of the traps that can come our way. These traps, often disguised as good intentions, can lead us astray from the path of virtue and into a cycle of suffering and misfortune. Let's think a little more about each of these warnings and how they apply to our daily lives. First, consider poisoned gifts. How many times have you accepted something from someone, believing it to be a gesture of kindness, only to discover that there were hidden intentions behind the gift? Perhaps it was a gift laden with envy, resentment, or even a curse. These gifts can have a profound impact on our lives, attracting bad luck and misfortune that could be avoided if we had more discernment. Then there is money of dubious origin. It may seem that easy money is the solution to many of our problems, but Padre Pio warned us that accepting money from immoral or illegal sources can bring us misfortune. Dirty money carries with it a negative energy that can eat away at everything good in our lives. He reminds us that money must be earned honestly, because only then will it bear lasting fruit and allow us to live in peace. Interested favors are another danger we need to avoid. We often accept favors from people without realizing that there is a hidden price to be paid. These favors, which at first seem like gestures of kindness, can trap us in a cycle of obligations and emotional blackmail. Marta's story illustrates this well. What seemed like a simple gesture of friendship ended up becoming an emotional trap that kept her trapped in a situation of fear and stress. By discerning the true intentions behind the favors we accept, we can protect our freedom and inner peace. Then there is destructive advice and criticism. Padre Pio warned us about the danger of accepting words that are not said with good intentions. Such advice, often disguised as concern or friendship, can destroy our self-esteem and lead us astray. The impact of these words can be devastating, leading us to failure and unhappiness. It is essential to learn to filter what we hear, seeking advice from people who genuinely want our good and support us in our growth. Finally, toxic relationships represent one of the greatest dangers to our peace and prosperity. Being surrounded by negative, envious, or malicious people can drain our energy and keep us from our goals. Padre Pio taught us that we need to choose the people we associate with carefully because their influences can shape our destiny. Anna's story is a clear example of this. By freeing herself from toxic relationships, she was able to regain her energy, her motivation, and finally achieve the success she had always sought. When reflecting on these 5 warnings, it is important to consider how we can apply Padre Pio's teachings in our daily lives. This requires discernment, self-knowledge, and often the courage to make difficult changes. It might mean cutting ties with people who do us harm, refusing gifts or favors that don't come from the heart, or saying no to money that hasn't been earned fairly. The moral of all this is clear. Protecting our life and spirit from negative influences is fundamental to achieving true peace and prosperity. Not everything that is offered to us comes with good intentions, and it is our responsibility to discern what we accept and from whom. In doing so, we not only avoid traps that can lead to suffering, but we also make room for true blessings to enter our lives. Padre Pio's teachings are more than just advice. They are guidelines for living a life of integrity, where peace of mind and prosperity are achieved through conscious, well-founded choices. By following these principles, we can protect ourselves from negative influences and create a life full of purpose and fulfillment. So, as you move forward on your journey, ask yourself, am I accepting what is right for my life? Am I surrounded by the right people? Am I making choices that really lead to growth and prosperity? These are fundamental questions that we should ask ourselves regularly. And as you search for these answers, always remember Padre Pio's advice, which guides us on a path of light, peace, and abundance. The moral of all this is clear. Discerning what we accept is fundamental to preserving our peace and success. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with those you love. See you in the next video. May these lessons from Padre Pio serve as a guide for your life, helping you to avoid the pitfalls along the way and walk safely towards a life of true blessings.